Hello students, today we will see the next chapter, that is ash analysis. So first of all, what is meant by ash? So ash, it is nothing but when any residue of sample, for example here we have considered the food sample, so that residue, that is of inorganic base, okay, that inorganic residue remaining after either ignition or complete oxidation of organic matter in the given sample. A basic knowledge of characteristics of various ashing procedure and types of the equipment is essential for the proper results. The two major types of ashing are used. First one is the dry ashing, which is primarily for proximate analysis, that is proximate composition, and for some types of specific mineral analysis. Wet ashing, that is oxidation, as a preparation for the analysis of certain minerals. So microsystems are now available for both dry as well as wet ashing analysis to speed up the particular analysis. So most dry sample, for example whole grain cereals, need no more preparation, while fresh vegetables need to be dried while ashing. High fat products such as meats may need to dried and fat extracted before the ashing. The ash content of foods can be expressed on either a wet or on a dry wet basis. Now we have to see some terminologies. So first one is the dry ashing. So what is mean by dry ashing? So dry ashing, it is nothing but the use of muffle furnace capable of maintaining temperature of 500 to 600 degrees Celsius. Water and volatiles are vaporized and organic substances are burned in presence of oxygen in air to CO2 and oxides of nitrogen. Most minerals are converted to oxides, sulfates, phosphates, chlorides and silicates. Elements such as iron, selenium, lead and mercury may partially volatilize with this procedure. So other methods must be used if ashing is the preliminary step for specific elemental analysis. The next one is the wet ashing. So wet ashing is the procedure for oxidizing organic substances by using certain mineral acids and oxidizing agent or their combinations. So minerals are solubilized without volatilization. So wet ashing often is preferable to dry ashing as preparation for specific elemental analysis. Wet ashing often uses a combination of acid and requires a special perchloric acid hood, that is fuming hood, if the perchloric acid is used. The next one, what is the importance of ash in the food analysis? So generally ash content represents the total mineral content of the food. So determining the ash content may be important for several reasons. It is also a part of proximate analysis, that is for nutritional evaluation. What kind of nutritional ingredients are present? For that purpose the ash analysis is done. Ashing is the first step in preparing a food sample for specific elemental analysis. Because certain foods are high in particular minerals, ash content becomes important for those. One can usually expect a constant elemental content from the ash of animal products, but that from plant sources is also available. Then see, various kinds of food contains how much amount of ash, it will discuss in the next table. So the generally the ash content of most fresh food rarely greater than 5%. Pure oils and fats generally contain little or no ash, or there are some other products such as bacon may contain 6% of ash, and dried beef may be as high as 11.6%. Wet basis of ash. Fats, oils and shortenings vary from 0 to 4.1% of ash, while dairy products may vary from 0.5 to 5.1% of the ash, while fruit, fruit juice and melons contain 0.2 to 0.6% of ash, while dried fruits are having higher percentage of ash, that is up to 2.4 to 3.5%. So this is the table in which we have see various selected foods and their ash composition. Here we have considering that in case of various cereals, breads and pasta, so the rye bread having highest percentage of ash by 2.5% weight basis, while that of the white rice having lowest percentage of ash, it is of 0.6%, while considering the dairy products, the milk having lowest amount of ash, that is about 0.7%, while that of butter having highest percent of ash. Then in case of various kinds of fruits and vegetables, so in that generally the raisins having highest percentage of ash, while apples having lowest percentage of ash by weight basis. While considering various meat and poultry and fish products, we can say that fish fillet having highest percentage of ash, that is 2.5%, while that of pork, fresh leg ham and eggs having lower percentage of ash, that is 0.9% of weight basis ash. Then next one, methods. So there are principles, materials, instrumentation, general procedure and applications are described for various ash determination methods, refers to the method cited in the detailed instruction. So sample preparation. So for the methods we have certain kind of steps, certain kind of parameters. That is, first one is the sample preparation. So it cannot be overemphasized that a small sample used for the ash or other determinations needs to be very carefully chosen so that it represents the original material. Nearly 2 to 10 gram of the sample is generally used for the ash determination. For that purpose, milling, grinding and like probably will not alter the ash content as much. However, if this ash is preparatory steps for specific mineral analysis, contamination by microelements is the potential concern. Remember, most grinders and mincers are made of steel construction, so repeated use of this will cause the contamination of the sample as well. The water sources used in the dilution also may contain contaminants of some microelements. Distilled deionized water always be used while performing the ash analysis. Then what are the materials? So first, plant material. So plant material are generally dried by routine methods prior to the grinding. The temperature of drying is little consequence of ashing because there are certain kind of minerals having certain kind of stability at a particular temperature. So that's why we have to consider that range of temperature. Then, however, the sample may be used for multiple determination, for example, protein, fiber, and so on, which requires consideration of temperature for drying. So, in that case, for the protein sample, we need some kind of other treatment with respect to temperature, while for fiber, it is also different. So, we can consider that fact we require the drying temperature accordingly. Fresh stem and leaf tissues probably should be dried in two stages, especially to prevent artifact lignin. Lignin degradation, in order to avoid lignin degradation, we have to perform the particular drying in two different stages. Then plant material with 15% or less moisture may be ashed without prior drying. Then next one is the fat and sugar products. Animal products, syrups, spices require treatment prior to the ashing because it contains high fat, moisture or high sugar content that may interfere in the result in the form of loss of the sample. Then meats, sugars, syrup needs to be evaporated to dryness on steam bath or any other suitable method. Then smoking and burning may occur upon ashing for some products, for example cheese, seafood and spices. Allow the smoking and burning to finish slowly by keeping the muffle furnace door open prior to the normal procedure. Then next one is the dry ashing. So this is the technique, first technique, that is dry ashing. So principle and instrumentation. Dry ashing is the incineration at high temperature, about 525 degrees Celsius or higher. Incineration is accomplished with the muffle furnace. So there are several models for muffle furnaces are available, ranging from their large capacity. Generally it is of 208 or 240 volt suppliers to small benchtop units utilizing 110 volts of outlets. Then crucible selection becomes a critical in the ashing because the types of crucible used depends upon the specific use. For example, quartz crucible are resistant to acid and halogens but not alkali at high temperature. That's why the various brand crucibles are stable at respective temperature like 900 degrees Celsius. One of the crucible is stable at 900 degrees Celsius, while other Pyrex IR Guch crucible, which is limited for 500 degrees Celsius. The ashing at lower temperature, that is about 500 to 525, may result in the slowly higher ash values because of less decomposition of carbonate takes place and loss of volatile salts. That's why it gives higher ash content. Then porcelain crucible resembles quartz crucibles in their properties but will crack with rapid temperature changes. Therefore, porcelain crucibles are relatively inexpensive and usually the crucible of everyone's choice. Then, steel crucibles are generally resistant to both acids as well as alkali, and also they are inexpensive, but they are composed of chromium and nickel, which will possible cause of particular contamination. So platinum crucible are very inert and are probably the best crucibles, but they are currently far expensive, which are not able to use for the routine purposes. So quartz fiber crucibles are disposable, unbreakable and can withstand at higher temperature up to 1000 degrees Celsius. So that's why they are mostly recommended. They are porous, allowing to air to circulate around the sample and speed the combustion. This also reduces the ashing time significantly and makes them ideal for solid and viscous liquids. Quartz fiber also cools in some seconds, virtually eliminating the risk of burns. All crucibles should be marked for identification. So the marks on crucible with the help of felt tip making pen will disappear during the ashing in muffle furnace. So laboratory ink will be used for the various kinds of marking of crucibles commercially. Then the crucibles also may be etched with diamond point and marked with 0.5 molar solution of FeCl3 in 20% HCl. So the crucible should be fired and cleaned prior to use. Usually a large number of crucibles can be handled at once and the resultant ash can be used additionally in other analysis for most individual elements: acid insoluble ash and water soluble and insoluble ash. The disadvantages of this are the length of time required, 12 to 18 hours or overnight, and we require the expensive instruments also. So there will be a loss of volatile elements and interactions between the mineral components and crucible. Volatile elements at a risk of being lost will include arsenic, boron, cadmium, chromium, copper, iron, lead, mercury, nickel, phosphorus, vanadium and zinc. Then how the particular dry ashing is performed. So the procedure. So first of all, that procedure, it is according to AOAC International. By they provide several dry ashing procedures. For example, they have provided AOAC method 902 A or B for certain individual foodstuff. So the general procedure which includes following steps. So the first one is the weigh 5 to 10 gram of the given sample into the tiered crucible. Pre-dry if sample is very moist. Place crucible in a cool muffle furnace. Use pair of tongs, gloves and protecting eyewear if muffle furnace is warm. Ignite the given sample for 12 to 18 hours or overnight at about 550 degrees Celsius. After that, after the time, turn off the muffle furnace and wait it to open until the temperature has dropped up to 250 degrees Celsius or less than that. Open the door carefully to avoid losing ash that may be fluffy. Using safety tongues, that is pair of tongues, quickly transfer crucible to the desiccator with a porcelain plate and desiccant into it. Cover crucible, close desiccator and allow crucibles to cool prior to the weighing. Then after that we have to calculate the ash content. So in order to calculate the ash content, we have to calculate it by dry weight basis. So percentage of ash equals to weight after ashing minus tare weight of the crucible upon original sample matter coefficient into 100, where dry matter coefficient is equals to percentage of solid upon 100. For example, if corn meal is of 87% dry matter, then the dry matter coefficient would be of 0.87. If ash is calculated on as received or weight basis, that is which includes moisture, delete the dry matter coefficient from the denominator. If moisture was determined in the same crucible prior to the ashing, the denominator becomes dry sample weight minus tiered crucible weight. Then next one is the weight ashing. So weight ashing principle, materials and application. In the weight ashing, it is sometimes called weight oxidation or weight digestion method. So its primary use is preparation of specific mineral analysis and metallic poisons. So often analytical testing laboratories use only weight ashing technique in preparing sample for certain mineral analysis. For example, iron, copper, zinc and phosphorus, because losses would occur by volatilization during the dry ashing. Means what? During dry ashing, these kind of minerals, they are get volatilized. That's why for that minerals we have to perform the weight ashing technique. So there are several advantages to use the weight ashing procedure. So mineral will usually stay in the solution and there is a little or no loss from the volatilization because the lower temperature. There are certain disadvantages of wet ashing, that are It takes virtually constant operator attention. It requires corrosive reagents, and only small number of samples can be used for the analysis. Here also we have to find out the dry matter coefficient, similarly what we have find for the dry ashing. So the same example. Then what are the combinations of the following acids used? So there are nitric acid, sulfuric acid and hydrogen peroxide, and third one is the perchloric acid. These are the combinations are used. So different combinations are recommended for different types of the sample, but generally the nitric perchloric combination is generally faster than the sulfuric nitric combination for the different types of procedure. Then, while wet digestion with perchloric acid is an AOAC procedure, many analytical laboratories avoid, if possible, the use of perchloric acid in wet ashing, and instead of use of combination of nitric acid with either sulfuric acid or hydrogen peroxide or hydrochloric acid. This is because whenever we have using perchloric acid, it requires some safety measurements such as the hood. That's why the perchloric acid hood that must be used has wash down capabilities and does not contain the plastic or glycerol based compounds. While perchloric acid does not interfere with atomic absorption spectroscopy, it does interfere in the traditional colorimetric assay for iron by reacting with iron in the sample to form a ferrous perchlorate, which forms the insoluble complex with the orthophenanthrolene during the procedure. Then, what is the procedure for the wet ashing? So, for that purpose, we have to accurately weigh a dried ground 1 gram of the sample in the conical flask, which is already clean and dried. Then prepare a blank of 3 ml of sulfuric acid and 5 ml of nitric acid, which is used for the blank purpose. Then to the sample we have add 3 ml of sulfuric acid followed by 5 ml of nitric acid. Then heat the given sample on a hot plate up to 200 degrees Celsius up to boiling. So you will get a brown yellow fumes. Then once brown yellow fumes will stops, white fumes from the decomposition of sulfuric acid are observed. Then sample will become darker. Remove the flask from the hot plate and slowly add 3 to 5 ml of nitric acid into it. Then put the flask back on the hot plate and allow the nitric acid to boil up. Proceed to the next step when all the nitric acid is removed and color is clear to the straw yellow. While on the hot plate, reduce the volume appropriately to allow for S of final transfer. Allow the sample to cool to room temperature, then quantitatively transfer the sample to the appropriate size volumetric flask. Dilute the sample to volume with ultra pure water and mix well. Dilute further as required for the specific type of minerals to be analyzed. Then the next one is the microwave ashing. So the microwave, there are a microwave wet ashing, that is acid digestion may be performed safely in either an open or closed vessel microwave system. So generally what is a microwave? So the heating, or we can say the combustion ignition, is performed under the microwave irradiation. It is known as a microwave ashing. So the microwave wet ashing may be performed safely in either an open or closed vessel microwave ovens. So the choice of the system depends upon the amount of sample and the temperature required for digestion. Because of the ability of the closed vessels to contain higher pressure, some vessels can handle up to 1500 psi pound square inch of pressure, while acid may be heated past their boiling point. This ensures a more complete dissolution of hard to digest substances. It also allows chemists to use nitric acid with sample that might normally require a harsher acid such as sulfuric or perchloric acid. In closed vessels specifically designed for high temperature or high pressure reactions, nitric acid can reach a temperature of 240 degrees Celsius. Thus, nitric acid is often the acid of choice, though hydrochloric, hydrofluoric, and sulfuric acids also are used depending on the sample and subsequent analysis being performed. Closed vessel microdigestion systems can process up to 40 samples at a time with vessel liners available in Teflon or TFM, TM, fluoropolymer and quartz. Typically, in the closed vessel microwave system, sample is placed in vessel with an appropriate amount of acid. The vessels are sealed and set of carousel where the temperature and pressure sensors are connected to the control vessel. The carousel then is placed in the microwave cavity and the sensors are connected to the instrument. Time, temperature, pressure and power parameter are chosen and the unit is started. This digestion normally requires less than 30 minutes. Because of the pressure generated by rising the temperature of the reaction, the vessel must be allowed to cool before open. The open vessel systems can process up to 6 samples each according to its own parameters in sequential or simultaneous format. Teflon IR, quartz or Pyrex IR vessels are generally used and condensers are added for refluxing. So the acid is automatically added according to program parameters. Then compared with the conventional dry ashing in a muffle furnace that often takes many hours, microwave furnaces can ash sample in minutes, decreasing analysis time as much as 97%. So also the microwave muffle furnaces can reach temperature up to 1200 degrees Celsius. In addition, they are equipped with exhaust systems that circulate the air in the cavity to help decrease the ashing time. Quartz fiber crucible cool in seconds and are not breakable. Some systems can process up to 25 ml crucibles at a 15 crucible of 25 ml capacity at a time. The crucible then is carefully removed with pair of tongues and reweighed. The sample then may be further analyzed if necessary. Some tests call for acid to be added to a dry ash sample which is then digested for further analysis. Then comparison. So ash determination by dry ashing requires expensive instruments, especially if many samples are analyzed. The muffle furnace may have the muffle furnace may have to be placed in a heat room along with drying ovens and it requires 220 volt outlets. It is important to make sure that large furnaces of that type are required with double pole single throw switch. Heating coils are generally exposed and care must be taken when taking sample in and out with the metal tongues. Desktop furnaces, that is benchtop furnaces of 110 volt are available for fewer sample. Wet ashing requires hood, corrosive reagents and constant operator attention. While wet oxidation causes little volatilization, dry ashing will result in the loss of volatile elements. The type of further elemental analysis will dictate the equipment. Some micro and most volatile elements will require special equipment and procedures. Both dry and wet ashing can be done using microwave system that utilizes relatively expensive instruments, but they greatly reduce the time for ashing and do not require the use of fuming hood. So the summary, the two major types of the ashing, that is dry ashing and wet ashing, can be done by conventional means as well as microwave system. The procedure of choice depends upon the use of ash following its determination and limitation based on cost, time and sample numbers. Conventional dry ashing is based upon the incineration, that is heating in absence of air at high temperatures in a muffle furnace. Except for certain elements, the residue may be used for further specific mineral analysis. In the wet ashing, often is used as a preparation for a specific elemental analysis by simultaneously dissolving minerals and oxidizing all organic material. Wet ashing conserves volatile elements but requires more operator time than dry ashing and is limited to the smaller number of samples. Dry and wet ashing using microtechnology reduces the time for the analysis and requires little additional equipment or space. So from that we can conclude that if we have proper instruments, we have to generally go through the microwave based ashing techniques because it has require very less time. That's why from that we can conclude that the particular microwave ashing is the most favorable and useful technique for the analysis of ash. So this is all about the ash analysis. Thank you.